morning, everyone. Thank you for attending our author series today. We're pleased to welcome Ted Coiné and Mark Babbitt for our author series for March. Ted and Mark will present a world gone social, how companies must adapt to survive. The business world has entered a new era, one in which social media has fundamentally changed the way companies innovate, market, scale, build teams, and serve customers. Welcome to the social age. Containing stories, analysis of real-world scenarios, and indispensable guidance, A World Gone Social provides the tools you need to build a socially enabled team that puts the customer experience first. You'll discover what it means to create an open network of partners, collaborators, and even competitors. And you'll learn why nimble and collaborative organizations will ultimately outlive their industrial age competition. In this new business climate, companies unwilling to change are destined for extinction. A World Gone Social enables you to avoid this fate and lead your organization confidently into the social age. Ted Coiné is Chief Relationship Officer of Babbitt, the next generation content marketing tool for organizations and individuals. He is a Forbes Top 10 social media power influencer and an Inc. Top 100 leadership expert. Ted is a serial business founder, 3-time CEO, and advisor to C-suite boards of directors. He lives in Naples, Florida with his wife and 2 daughters. Mark Babbitt is CEO of U-Turn, a talent community that Forbes has twice named a top website for your career. Mark serves as president of Switch and Shift, a site that champions social leadership, and he is the founder of Forward Heroes, which launches in 2015. To help our military veterans transition successfully into civilian careers. Mark is an in-demand speaker and mentor and the father of 5 and a grandfather. He and his wife call Seattle home. Ted and Mark have each been named an Inc. Top 100 speaker and one of the 15 Twitter accounts every entrepreneur should follow by Business News Daily. We're excited to hand this webinar over to Ted and Mark. So without further delay, guys, take it away.
Kim, Jordan, thank you so much. We're really excited to be here. This is obviously from our backgrounds. This is a topic near and dear to our hearts. So why don't we roll into it? Because my guess is, given the demographic of this call, that this slide is going to be especially important to our listeners. When we were researching our book, we met a guy who works for IBM named Jim Clausen. And Jim confided in us. He said, my passion is for the social leader, not just CEOs, but executives in general. My passion is for the social leader, but finding a truly social leader is about as rare, not just as finding a unicorn, but as finding a certain color of unicorns. So he says he's on a quest for blue unicorns, and they remain incredibly rare. Now, they do skew, so large companies are having a lot more trouble with going social and actually doing it right as far as the leadership does than startups and new companies. I think because, startup founders get it. They understand that, boy, they have all these really great tools available to them to reach out and build their business for free. It's a great way to level the playing field, which we can talk about a little bit later. Here's the thing, though. It isn't just representing yourself and your company on social media. It's how you do it. Industrial age leadership, the command and control, the I'm the boss, I know stuff, and you're the employee, you do stuff. That just doesn't fly anymore. When we were putting together the book, it took about 5 years of collecting our information, interviewing, you name it. We realized that about 2008, when enough people were on social media to really make a difference, to really, the tail started wagging the dog as far as the power of employees and of customers, what we realized was that we are in a new age. We're in the social age. The industrial age worked really well for running a factory and making simple things. But how many people run a factory and make Model Ts anymore? Social age leaders need to engage with each other They need to engage with the community of customers and potential customers, and they need to engage with their employees. One really great example of that, Jason Fried of it was 37 Signals, now it's Basecamp. I watch him sometimes, and he just tweets with his staff all the time to keep up with them. And that's a really interesting way of doing it. You wouldn't find many people doing that in my father's generation. Social leaders need to engage with people, and they need to facilitate their employees also engaging with people, to lead from the front. They need to have a focus on the human side of business. So all the way back in 1960, an MIT professor wrote a book called The Human Side of Enterprise about how basically I'll save you 350 pages of reading. There was two types of leadership mindsets, and it played out in the culture of the company. One, you trust. The other, you don't. You trust employees to come to work doing their best, wanting to do their best, or you don't trust them and you put all sorts of controls on them. Well, the human side of leadership today is trusting your employees, and the thing is you can attract higher talent when you do that. So it doesn't mean a free-for-all where you're doing their laundry for them so they can go take some time off. It's not like that. But it's when you trust your employees to bring their very best selves to work. When you support them, they are going to help you build your business rather than just show up for a paycheck. Blue unicorns, social leaders, they lead by example, as I was saying, and they understand the truth that social is a mindset. It's not just another way to broadcast the message. It's really how leaders think about interacting both with their employees, with their customers, with the community, even with competitors at times. There's ways to cooperate and form alliances with people who previously were your competitors and maybe again. Social is an entirely different way of doing business, and it's a really great way to do business that's more rewarding if you embrace it. Mark, you want to?
Well, yeah, and what a great segue to a phrase we use consistently throughout the book. I think, Ted, we use it almost a dozen times in the book. We reiterate more social, less media. And we do that because in phase one of social, say 2007, 2008, 2009, all the way up till a couple of years ago, it was okay for a brand or a leader, a CEO, a startup founder to just be on social. It was okay to just broadcast out your message and talk about what if you like pizza for lunch that day or not, and oh, my back hurts, and it wasn't filtered. It became this place where trolls thrived, and the noise just got louder and louder and louder. So we talk a lot about more social, less media, because we want to reiterate that this is a tool for communication. It's a tool about listening, and because you can't have communication without also listening, and that's what we love about phase two of social media, is that we have finally figured out, or the leaders, the entrepreneurs, the founders that are doing this really well, they finally figured out that it's not just about broadcasting. As Ted said, it's about engaging, it's about listening, and we have to make that leap. Otherwise, we're kind of labeled as a spammer or a self-promoter, and that's not a great way to build your brand. So another thing about the idea of more social, less media is that it forces us to expand our view of return on investment. Now, this is where a lot of like Fortune 500 CEOs are having an issue, right? Because we can't always track a discount code. We can't always track how effective a campaign was on social. And even when we do, we have to track different things, like how many relationships we're building, how many partnerships we're forming, how many customers we turned around. Maybe they were angry and they tweeted about us, and we jumped on it. We jumped all over it, like Peter Aceto does at Tangerine Bank. He sees a customer that's upset with his bank, sees that in the general stream, and jumps into action. And 2 hours later, that customer is now a champion, and just an amazing example of a younger CEO utilizing social media in very much the more social, less media way. And another thing is that we find that we start building a social brand by doing good, and we our consumers, our employees, they start to see this buzz that's going on about us on social media, not because of a campaign, not because of something that we try to manipulate, but we build champions just by doing good. And there's so many great examples of this. CVS Caremark making the decision that we can't be the store that talks about promoting your good health, that we care about your health, when right behind every counter are stacks and stacks of cigarettes. So CVS Caremark says, look, we know we have to make a change here. So they become the first ever retailer to say, you know what, we're not selling the cigarettes in our stores. We're not going to be hypocrites. And they removed cigarettes from the store, and their brand just took off. Target, you guys might have heard this story about the young man who goes in to buy a clip-on tie. And, well, Target doesn't sell clip-on ties. And he said, well, I got a job interview. I need a tie. I can't go to a job interview without a tie. So the person that's helping the young man calls a store manager over and says, hey, this young man needs a tie. Can you help him tie it? He's got a job interview. Well, fast forward a bit, just for the sake of time. 15 minutes later, the young man leaves the store. He not only has a tie, but he has job interview advice, career advice from almost everybody in that store. Employees, managers, customers, everybody jumps on his side. He leaves that store full of confidence. And, well, somebody was smart enough to take a picture of this boomer tying this millennial's tie. It gets on social, and it goes viral. It wasn't a campaign. It wasn't planned. It was just a brand being good by doing good. And now compare that to what poor McDonald's has just gone through with their I'm Loving It campaign. And you guys might have seen this in the Super Bowl commercial where a person, they order their lunch, and the cashier says, well, the price of your meal today is a hug. You have to hug the person standing next to you. And it worked out really well. Well, unfortunately, it went viral for the wrong reasons, because a lot of times when the cameras were rolling, even if it was a cell phone camera, somebody would go to pay for their lunch with a hug or a storytelling of appreciation, only to find out that the person standing next to them is the person they were about to divorce, or a business partnership that was failing, and now we have to give each other a hug? I don't think so, right? So big difference between between promoting champions and trying to manufacture champions. And that's the message of more social, less media, is just let things be organic. Do the right thing by people, and your brand will take off on social. It's happened over and over again.
And that's a really good point as we roll into the next slide. So here's the thing: doing the right thing has always, by everyone concerned, by your business partners, your investors, by your employees, by your customers, has always been a really smart way to run business. But in the social age, good luck not doing the right thing. It's a wonderful situation where before, if you were unhappy, maybe you told 10 people about your displeasure with a brand, and then you moved on with your life. You're done. That statistics showed 10 is about the number. If you're happy, maybe you tell 3 or 4, and maybe that's not fair, but tough. That's how humans work, right? In the social age, you're happy, you tweet it out or stick it on Facebook. You're unhappy, same thing. And so the examples that Mark gave, that guy going for the tie, give me a break. Nobody planned that, as Mark said, and people loved it. Doing the right thing pays. So that brings us to, who are your champions? Leveraging the testimonial economy. You've got people who, if you treat them right, are going to sing your praises up and down to everyone they meet. And this is something that, again, it has been a timeless truth, but now the ability to sing one's praises on YouTube can change.
It sounds like we might have lost Ted for a second. So let me pick it up until we get Ted back. So as Ted started to say, what we say about each other on YouTube, Twitter, Yelp. Think about the power of Yelp. When is the last time you went to a new restaurant in town and didn't Yelp first? Right? It doesn't happen anymore, or at least for people under 35, maybe 40, 45, it doesn't happen anymore. We want social proof. We don't want to listen to that broadcast message. We don't want to hear you selling you. The bottom line, in the social age, what you say about you is selling, or at least marketing. And what others say about you, that is your brand. What we hear on Yelp, or what we read on Yelp, what we hear on YouTube, what we hear through the social community, it only takes one really bad objective review. And yes, we have to filter out some of the not so objective reviews.
Please.
But we need to make sure that we have our champions, as Ted said,
actually 700
of our brand.
100 times more. That they trust your 700%, I'm sorry, 700% more than they trust your marketing department. If you want to get the word out, sorry? I'm sorry, Mark?
Ted, it seems as though your internet's going in and out, so I kind of picked up the conversation.
So I didn't hear what Mark was saying. Oh, I'm so sorry. My internet is going out. I apologize. So employees trust your, people trust your employees the most. Can you hear me clearly now?
We got you now, Ted, yep.
That's embarrassing. Mark, do you want to take over this slide?
Well, we've kind of already finished it, Ted. So
people trust your employees. Okay. I wasn't sure what got through and what didn't. I have to apologize. So what you say about you is selling. What others say about you, that is your brand. In the social age, it's imperative to make sure that people are saying good things about you. Okay, Mark, I'm going to check my internet while you do the next slide.
Very good. Isn't live broadcasting fun? This is the social age, folks. This happens just like I guess old time radio. So let's move on. We made a discovery as we were working on A World Gone Social, and we found what we consider to be the ultimate champion of our brand, and this could also be the ultimate champion as a leader. And we, with deep respect for Adam Grant and his amazing book Give and Take. If you haven't read this book yet, you absolutely must. Adam places people into three categories: givers, matchers, and takers. Now, takers are just like they sound. They're what we call in the career and leadership community ask holes, and I have to enunciate that very clearly, so I'll do it again. It's ask holes. They're the people that the first time they meet you, they ask for a favor. And this was a very phase one social media thing. It was okay at one point to say, you know what, I don't know this guy, but I'm going to ask him to read my book and write a review, even though I've made no effort to build a relationship. That is an ask hole. And so the opposite of that is what we call in A World Gone Social the relentless giver, the person who understands that sharing of knowledge is a gift, and that by sharing our knowledge, by making others around us stronger, whether it's our team members or our community, our customer, by making them feel better about themselves, about our product, about our brand, about the service that we're providing, we're building trust. And it comes from trust, as Ted said in the very first slide. You know, that is when we cross over from just being a brand to a brand that's trusted. Now we're building a community, and we're asking people to contribute to that community, and by default they become our ultimate champions. And so now take this into the social age, where we have that customer on Yelp or TripAdvisor or Indeed.com or Google reviews. And they are out there promoting our brand, and it costs us nothing other than treating them well. Then now we've started to build a relentless giver. And even more important, when we as leaders of our companies, as founders of our startups, when we become relentless givers, now when we have a new product to launch or or a booth going up at a major conference, or we need help promoting a blog post, or maybe we have an ebook we're sending out. We've been a relentless giver. We've helped everyone else, and now when we finally ask for help, when we go to our community and say, hey guys, we got something big coming up, we could really use your support. Now everyone answers the bell. Everyone wants to help because they're already champions of your brand. They understand you're a relentless giver. They want to help you back. It's a huge element of the social age.
And that brings us right into the power of open. So maybe the idea from the book that we are most excited about, is, as you can tell, we're excited about a bunch of them, is the power of open, which stands for Ordinary People, Extraordinary Network. I'll explain how that works in just a second. But when it comes to what Mark was saying about being a relentless giver, the trick is not to have just a big network. A big network alone doesn't do very much for you at all. That's why we kind of laugh at people who buy followers on Twitter, for instance, because they're robots. They're not actual people. They're not actually buying anything of any value. So the thing is, with your network, you feed your network, and as Mark was saying, when it's time to ask, perfect. So Ordinary People, Extraordinary Network, your network, no matter how much you build it, will not be extraordinary if you do not nurture it all along. So Mark and I got on Twitter about the same time. We, in 2009 is when we really got active in social media in general. And neither of us asked anybody for anything in particular for an awful long time, and then all of a sudden we have a book to sell, and guess what? People were very happy to help us sell a book. That was very kind of them. We didn't show up, as Mark was saying, and say, hey, thanks for following, like my Facebook page. Really? So Ordinary People, Extraordinary Network. What does that stand for? Ordinary People, Extraordinary Network stands for the idea that even if we're an expert in one field, that does not mean we're an expert in everything, of course. So I don't care if you're a Harvard professor. You still have deficits in your own skill set. Naturally, you can't be good at everything, or else people would be making comic books about you in movies. So, but we can be extraordinary through our network. So when we need something and we're on social and we have a rich network, we can reach out and find the experts we need for anything. And this is for individually, it's helpful. So maybe you're a founder of a startup and you need a really top-notch new CTO. Okay, your network can help you find one. Or maybe it's your company. So your company can reach out and take advantage of the goodwill that it has built in its network. Ordinary People, Extraordinary Network, or as we like to say, open, is a way to solve problems by bringing in the best minds from around the globe. You don't have to just, I live in Naples, Florida. It's a pretty small town, a lot of retirees here. A lot of incredible business wisdom here as well, but I'll tell you what, when I need a question asked, I don't go to my neighbors and the people that I've met in town. I just go online. And I think that pretty much everybody, even though Mark lives in Seattle, he's got a richer network internationally with his social accounts than he does just in even that remarkable city. So the web is just a tremendous tool when you start taking advantage of it like that. Crowdsourcing ideas, even if your company is small, it doesn't matter. There's a firm called Innocentive, and there's other companies that do the same thing. You come to them and you say, we have a technical problem we need to solve. Let's set up a contest with your subscribers and see who has the answer. And you can put out, any company can tap into Innocentive's subscribers to say, all right, here's the challenge we're up against. We have a $20,000 prize. And whoever solves that prize will get the $20,000, and everybody else, walks away free, basically. Well, there's a lot of people who love rising to a challenge like that, and it may not be just for the prize. If you think of Wikipedia, there is no prize, but people love to participate. The social age is also the age of participation. So taking your small company and making it huge without hiring extra people is one really great way to take advantage of the idea of open. Open is how we collaborate. It's how we compete. So a little guy can go against a big guy. When I say guy, I mean woman also. A little company can go against the biggest ones there are by having this diffuse talent pool inside and outside the organization. And by the way, it's not just outside the organization. It's also within. With collaboration tools, a leader can easily find the top talent within the company that may have a different job title, but who happens to know the best solution to a problem. That's a great way to find talent as you grow your company. We have an expression, it's right times 3. So getting the right people in the right room at the right time. Social allows you to do that. And there's a great story that we found when we were reading up, putting the book together. It's on the Scorpion. Now, here's the thing. So way back in the 60s, the U.S. Navy lost a submarine, and it disappeared one day, and the Navy had no idea where it was. It was in the North Atlantic. Done. They knew nothing else. So an officer was tasked to put together, I believe his name was John Craven, was tasked to put together a task force to find it. Well, what he did was, rather than the typical route of, all right, let's gather the Navy's experts in a room and all discuss this and try to come to a consensus, he said, no, I'm going to tap into some professors, some experts in weather, some experts in ocean currents that don't know each other at all, and I'm not going to let them convene. And they could be professors at universities, they could be researchers. It doesn't matter. They do not have to work for the Navy. Well, individually, each one, when they came up with a guess as to where that, quite educated guess, mind you, when they came up with a guess as to where that submarine was, they weren't even close. But together, when he amalgamated this, this collection of wisdom, they were able to find it within, I believe, about 300 yards. Imagine, we know it's someplace in the North Atlantic. We know it left port 5 days ago. We have no idea where it is now. It came within 300 yards. That is the power of open way before the social age enabled it to be at our fingertips. Today, that type of brain power can work for your company to help you build it even on a shoestring.
So how do we leverage all this? How do we build a team that is already ready for an open mindset, where we enjoy the collaboration, where we thrive in an innovative environment? Well, one of the first things we found as we were writing this, HCLT in India, an amazing company, an amazing CEO, and he said, you know what, this whole customers are always right thing, this isn't working for us. This doesn't feel right, because I don't know how to ask my employees to treat my customers really well if I don't treat my employees well. And as we dove into the book, we found several cases. I mean, think about Zappos. Of course, everybody always talks about Zappos, but in this case, how can you not, right? I mean, these guys have champions, have relentless givers. All they do. Think about Stacy Donovan Zapper. All she does at Zappos is make sure the employees are happy. Make sure the employees have a voice. Make sure the employees have a feedback system where if something does go a little bit wrong, and even at Zappos things do go wrong, the employee feels like they've been listened to. So that's the first thing is boy, we have to treat our team right first. And this is a top-down thing. A lot of issues in the social age, we've seen it. Get on Twitter. Sometimes the CEO doesn't even know a company's on Twitter. That's very much a bottom-up or maybe a middle-out launch to social. But the employees first, customer second mindset, that's a top-down thing. And if the CEO doesn't buy into this, if the CEO doesn't care about the culture, about the climate that he's creating in the company, she's creating in the company, then we have an issue. So, and a big part of that, when a CEO goes to work every morning, she knows I have a responsibility. My job here is not only to get the product out the door, it's not just to please my customers, it's not to please the investors, which everybody on this call understands what a trap that can become. She has a responsibility to create an optimistic workplace. That's a huge part of the social age. Nobody wants to go to work where they know that day is just going to suck. Nobody wants to be in that environment. And so this is a huge issue in the social age, is how is leadership promoting a focus on optimism? How are we working hard, even if it's just walking the floor? You know, the days of a leader, industrial age leader, sitting up on the 62nd floor with his great view and never communicating with his employees, with his team, with his product developers, with his marketing and sales teams, those days are gone. We have to walk the floor. We have to put ourselves out there. We have to be a little bit vulnerable, even when things aren't going right. Matter of fact, that's a true test of a leader. We found out as we were building a World Gone Social. When the leader walks the floor, even when things haven't gone well or aren't going well, that's trust. That's the blue unicorn right there. So now a big part of this, of course, is you can't have a bunch of assholes. You can't have a bunch of takers as part of your team. It doesn't work. You have to have a stable of relentless givers. You have to have everybody believe that by sharing, we do make each other stronger. By contributing to the team, then we make the team stronger, the company stronger, the brand stronger. And what that does is that you eventually, as you build more and more relentless givers, and if you guys get nothing else out of this hour, think about this the next time you're hiring somebody, the next time you're bringing in a new team member or a new executive. Ask yourself, is this person a relentless giver or not? This will change your hiring. This will change the way you build teams. And eventually, if you do that, and you do that over time, and pretty soon the relentless givers outweigh the takers, now you've created an open culture that will attract more top talent. Those employees become champions. They get on Facebook, they get on Glassdoor, they get on everywhere social, and say, you know what, I love working here, and this is a great place, and wow, what a difference over your competition. Now a big part of this to make this happen is we have to go a little flatter, or maybe in some cases a lot flatter, right? We can't have 14 layers of management, 14 layers of decision making between you and the newest employee or the newest intern. And this is where startups have a great advantage, right? Because we don't really think about that. A startup of 6, 8, 10 people, a solopreneurship, we don't have this, right? So we're constantly on the front. We're constantly listening to our customers. Now, not everybody, you will find, is going to buy into this. Not everybody is going to magically become a relentless giver overnight. We're going to have people in our organization now that came to us for many good reasons, but they aren't a good fit now. They aren't a good fit to the social team that we're building moving forward. And so what do you do with them? What do you do with the managers that, say you have 2 or 3 levels of management? What do you do with them? Do you fire them? No, that's not what we're saying. But we do need to move them into a role where they can thrive. We talked about getting the right people in the right room at the right time. Well, the assumption there is they're in the right role. And if they're not, then it's up to you as leader to fix that. Now, what happens if none of this works? What happens if all of your effort doesn't turn that person or that team into a socially enabled group? Well, then you have to allow attrition to become your best friend. And this was a huge cycle we saw in the book. We saw social leaders trying everything to make things work, and sometimes it meant leaving in a troll in. We didn't want to deal with the confrontation. We didn't want to deal with letting somebody go. Oh, Bob, especially at big companies, Bob's been with us 22 years. How can we let Bob go? Well, Bob was probably really good 22 years ago. Right now, he might be impeding your progress toward becoming a socially enabled team, and this is where attrition comes in, and we have to, as leaders, we have to make some hard choices. And some of you startup founders, you might already see that. You might be thinking about, wow, this guy does his job, but he's not a champion. He's not a relentless giver. Maybe we can upgrade our team. Maybe we can fix this a little bit, and maybe some tough choices are necessary. So keep that in mind. The social age is not all puppies and rainbows. Sometimes we have to make hard decisions to get to the next level.
And that's a great segue into managing the social employee, because it's not all rainbows and puppies, which cracks me up. I gave Mark full credit for that one. We're in a new era, and there are new rules and expectations as a result. So let's start with what is the best social media policy for your company? And we're going to start with the Nordstrom Code. The Nordstrom Code has said for years, for probably a generation, use good judgment at all times. Done. That's their handbook. Good judgment, not your best judgment, because sometimes, as I explain to my daughters all the time, if your judgment isn't very good, don't use your best judgment. Okay? Use good judgment. Now, how does that play out to a social media policy? Well, Zappos decided they like that. There's Zappos again. They're doing things right, and they deserve to be praised. Zappos' social media policy is a sentence. It's not 40 pages. It's not even 3 pages. It's not don't do this, don't do that. It's a sentence. Be real and use good judgment. Again, don't pretend you're somebody you're not. Don't be all stiff and formal. This is social media, so more social, please, less media. But be a real person, and while you're being a real person, use good judgment. Because the whole idea of employees first, customers second is that the employees then say, boy, I love my company. I'm going to take really good care of my customers. That's who is touching your customer on a daily basis. Of course you need to treat them well. Give them the latitude that they need to be able to make decisions on their own. One really beneficial way to do that, train employees in social media. It's a great career benefit. It's a terrific career benefit, so much better than rewarding somebody with an unpaid day off. Hey, a paid day off. Hey, you did a great job, take a day off. How about this one? Here's a career skill for life. So set clear guidelines so people know what's kosher. They know what not to do. Champion the good. When you see something good happening with your employees, celebrate it. Companies don't celebrate enough. Celebrate the small things as well. And when something bad happens, don't come down on people and drive fear through your organization, but make sure, it doesn't happen again. Prevent or remove the ugly. As Mark was saying, not everybody who was an effective employee in the industrial age has a social age mindset. And when they get on social, there could be a problem. Also, there could be a problem because your customers are maybe justifiably, maybe not, unhappy. It could be a problem that you need to take care of. We have a great example in the book of how Southwest Airlines they had a huge problem because there was just an injustice done when Director Kevin Smith was kicked off of a plane for being a little bit larger than he should have been in that seat. So thought the captain. Well, he was so embarrassed and angry that he started tweeting about it to his 1 million followers. And guess what? All of a sudden, there's a social lynch mob ready to lynch Southwest Airlines. Well, fortunately, Southwest had great people on social who, first of all, escalated it to the Vice President of Customer Experience, who reached out to him on social. But second of all, they did everything out in the open. The social lynch mob never had an opportunity to successfully lynch Southwest Airlines. In fact, it blew over. Kevin Smith himself said the way they handled it so well, I don't feel bad about Southwest at all. I'm grateful with the professional way they handled everything. All right out there in the open. You've got a challenge, and the best entrepreneurs, the best go-getters say, this is great. Challenge? I'm gonna master this, and my company is going to be on top of it. And if our competition doesn't have the same mindset or can't keep up with us, great. Helping your employees build a personal brand. Once you have given them the skills and the latitude to go out there and do it, then please encourage them. Your personal brand is something that represents the company well. When you look good and you're associated with our company, the company looks good. And as we were talking about earlier, that is leveraging the trust that your employees already have built with their networks. If you host it on your own property's website, even better, because then people are coming back to your property to check it out. But regardless, help your employees build their personal brands. So embrace this challenge. This is probably the best advantage that a small, nimble organization can have against a big one that doesn't quite get it, because social is so new and confusing.
So Ted, you might have seen this last night, but I'm going to throw in here really quick. Everybody, please Google what happened to Bud Light yesterday with their pinching tweet, and how the anti-bullying organizations and that movement and it's just so funny how one seemingly innocent tweet can be picked up by the social lynch mob, all open to interpretation. And Bud Light's poor reaction to it, where they instead of saying, "Hey guys, that might have been a bad tweet, and we own it, and we're sorry, and it's gone," and hey, we're moving on, and enjoy St. Paddy's Day. Please talk to us if you have any other issues. We're really sorry. They did what every company did in the industrial age. They issued a statement, and they put the statement out about how sorry they were, and if you were offended by our choice of words, we're sorry. Well, that's so 1974. That can't happen. Anyway, it's a long story. Google it. It just happened yesterday. The social lynch mob, very, very real, and it can have a significant impact on your brand.
And that's the thing, as Mark was saying, it's not fair sometimes. Sometimes it may not be fair when you think about it, but do you really want your brand to be deciding what's fair and what's not, or do you want to handle things head-on and quickly? I think that's an important lesson they can take from that.
As we start to close out, here's some thinking points we want you to consider as leaders of your organization, of your startup, of your entrepreneurial endeavors. Here's the thing: the social age is here. It's already taken over. It's already killing a lot of old school brands. And you're the David in this scenario. There's a lot of Goliaths out there that are really struggling in the social age, and you have the opportunity, maybe even the responsibility, to lead your team into the social age. It's up to you to take your team in this new direction, because it's coming. It's coming whether we embrace it or not. And by the way, this does not mean, let's just say that you're not a social person in general. Fine, go assign somebody else to be the social face of your team. But somebody from your organization has to be out there. They have to be the face. They have to be the personality behind your brand. I mean, think of Richard Branson, Ariane Huffington, Jason Fried, as Ted said earlier. These guys are out front, and they're absolutely nailing it. Somebody, if it's not you, from your organization needs to be that person. And we simply must choose to be part of this new era personally. Again, we don't have to be on Twitter all the time. Ted and I hear all the time, well, I'm already working 16 hours a day as a leader. When am I going to spend 2 hours on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn? We get it, but you got to find some time. And what we say all the time is, look, if your phone rang, wouldn't you answer it? When you get an email, don't you feel compelled to respond? Of course you do. Well, social has become a communication tool for us personally, just like email and the phone. And to ignore social, that's ignoring the way that many people are communicating now in the real world. And so if you're not going to be on social, if your company's not going to listen, then you might as well shut your phones off, and you might as well disengage your email, because it's the same process. It's the same problem. You have to choose to be part of this, or you're leaving communication opportunities behind. And here's a real big thing for the blue unicorns, for the social leaders. Our comfort zones are feeling like we need to be in control as a leader, are feeling like we have to have all the answers, or we take pride in being decisive and autocratic and maybe a little bit of a bull in the china shop thing. The leadership isn't like that anymore. We have to let go of that control. We have to invite collaboration. We have to invite innovation. And for some leaders, that's hard. That's a hard thing to do. But if you want to jump into the social age, that's the direction things are going. That's what your employees expect. That's what the talent you're trying to attract to your startup, to your entrepreneurial endeavor. They expect you to listen. So comfort zones have to go out the window. And finally, we have to say, you know what, I'm not going to be a blue unicorn tomorrow. I'm not going to change the way I lead in the next week or the next month. But 3 months from now, I'm going to be a blue unicorn, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to get the right people in the right room at the right time. And I'm going to build an open culture that will attract the top talent, perhaps away from my competition. I'm going to build an organization so cool, so robust, so exciting that everybody, when they graduate from college or when they come up with a new coding system, or they're a big champion in the industry, now I want them to be a big champion of my brand, of my company. I'm going to be enough of a blue unicorn to attract them to me. And I'm going to do that without spending tens of thousands of dollars on recruiting to find just the right person. I'm going to do it on Twitter. I'm going to do it on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm going to go social, and I'm going to build a really good team as a blue unicorn. Okay, and that's all we have presented today. Unless, Ted, you have anything to add before we start questions?
Same thing as you. With that, let's open this up to questions.
So, Ted, Mark, thank you so much for your fabulous presentation. We do have some questions that have come in, and I just want to remind our attendees to, if you have any questions, please type them into the questions area, and we'll address as many of these as we can up until the hour. So, first question here. How do you define relentless giver? What does that mean and look like? And how do you identify it in a person, say in an interview? And does that relentless giver, how do you feed them?
What was the last part?
What a great question.
How does the relentless giver get fed to?
So what keeps the relentless giver engaged? Is that how we can interpret that question?
I think they're wanting to define what the relentless giver is, what that means, what's it look like, and how do you identify that person, say like in an interview?
Well, I'll tell you what, it happens actually before the interview nowadays, and I don't know if this is a right thing or a wrong thing, but it's funny how we are now going to social media as we start to build a team and finding out if they're a relentless giver even before we contact them for an interview. Because we can get on their social media profiles and we can see if it's all about them or if they're sharing blogs that might be of value to their inner circle or to their network or to their industry or their community. Right? We can see if they're capable of original thought. We can see what they stand for, and if they're influencing other people to have a more open mind. And so that's at our organization, U-Turn Switch and Shift Forward Heroes. It's one of the first things we look for, Kim, is this person instinctively sharing the good that they're finding out there? And if they are, they're by definition a relentless giver. And then I think on the engagement side, how do we feed them? I'll just speak for myself. I love it when people do two things. They share content, information, trends with me, but more importantly, when they connect people that have things in common with me, when they send out introductions on Twitter or email or through a LinkedIn connection, one of the big things about a relentless giver that you can identify in them and promote once they're with you is, are they continuing to move the mission forward by making introductions? Are they making the network bigger? Are they, with no value to them, with no what's in it for me thought at all, are they connecting like-minded people? Well then, if they're doing that, and if you're doing that for them, you not only have found a relentless giver, you'll continue feeding them.
That's great. Thank you so much. Next question is, how would a startup company of one person implement these strategies?
You're only going to be a startup with one person for hopefully a short while. Now, there's two different animals, really, an entrepreneur and a solopreneur, and a lot of people use them interchangeably. If you are working for yourself now and you want to be working all by yourself 10 years from now, that's awesome. It's very admirable. There are many, many, many professionals who are quite successful. My father falls into that category. What you need to do then, especially, but also as an entrepreneur building a business, adding employees as your business grows, regardless, you need to be tapped into your network, because where you have deficits, and when you're a one-person shop, you have all sorts of deficits. Your network can fill those gaps, and you can create a mastermind to help you build your business by reaching out to people who you might like to mentor, reaching out to people who are, active and obvious givers. And the first thing is, please don't, as Mark was saying a bit earlier, don't just reach out to them and say, hey, can you help me? Adam Grant, the guy who wrote Give and Take and gave the vocabulary of givers to us in the first place, he said, you're a taker when? And there's two times you're a taker. One is when you say, I'm a giver. So if somebody raises their hand and says, I'm a giver, I have only met one in the 2 years since I've read that book who said, oh, yeah, I'm a giver, and actually was. So that's the first thing. Be careful. It's like trust me. Be careful when somebody says trust me. You should not trust them. The second thing is that he says, you're a taker when? The first thing you do is you reach out and say, can you do me a favor? So just be extra careful about that. But when you're nurturing relationships, when you're helping others first, when you're making introductions all the time, and it's just your MO, then sure, reach out to somebody and say, hey, we've been kind of, online friends for a while. Can we take this to Skype? Because I could really use your help with something. That is, beyond priceless, and it's more than kosher. It's the way it's done. So for a one-person show, we had a great example, didn't we, Mark? What was his name? Dennis Goldberg, I believe. He was a one-man pharmaceutical company. He hired himself out. He was mind you, he was an experienced pharmaceutical executive. He wasn't just some guy with an idea one day, right? But he hired out to a lab at Charles River Laboratories, which has a very, very large facility. They were happy to rent some of the space to him. He got some investors, the whole thing. He built patentable medicine for $6 million at a time, rather than for the typical $60 million, and that a normal large research facility does. And he did it as his only employee. He brought in people to work with him who were, paid on a project basis, which in our book we call it the Nano Corp. You can also call it the Hollywood model, bringing people together for a short time, and you do a project, then you move on. You go your separate ways. Maybe you come together for another project in the future. But that model works really well for somebody who has a small company, wants to keep it small, or has a one-person operation and wants to leverage social. We leverage social to connect to all these people, the top talent we need throughout the world.
Okay, great. Thank you. Through here we have several questions. So I'm looking in here. We have a question from a photographer who has been freelancing since 2000. Recently moved to Cincinnati, Ohio about a year ago, and is having a really hard time finding customers. Wondering what social media steps should I take to get on the right path?
Wow, what a great question for a solopreneur. We work with a lot of companies, organizations, and individuals who are going through something similar right now. And here's the deal: social media is the way to demonstrate your work, not just from a quality perspective of your photographs, but what kind of person are you? What do you stand for? Can we trust you? And so without getting into specifics that may not apply to everybody, we talked earlier about the testimonial economy. Get your pictures out there. More importantly, get your customers. Ask them for testimonials. Put them on your LinkedIn profile. Put them on Yelp. Ask them to share this on their Facebook page and on their Twitter accounts. Be very deliberate in building up your bank of testimonials and endorsements, because if you're selling, nobody's buying. But if somebody else starts talking about you, then pretty soon, when the next wedding comes up, the next bar mitzvah comes up, the next high school graduation comes up, the next reunion comes up, somebody's going to think of you and the testimonial you have on social media. You have to leverage testimonials and endorsements. You absolutely must. That's the way the world works now.
Good. Next question is, what can non-for-profits do to enroll volunteers in the social media outreach until they're able to raise funds to hire employees to work and have a person dedicated to lead in the social media area?
I spent 2 years, my second, quote, business was a nonprofit. So I've founded co-founded 3 different businesses. My second was actually a nonprofit. So for 2 years, I was very immersed in this. And by the way, it was in a new community. Great way to meet people. Your photographer might want to volunteer their photography services. But as for volunteers, the really great thing about a good cause is you will find volunteers who are just dying to give their time. And one problem that a lot of nonprofits have is that they don't have enough tasks for the volunteers to do. They say, okay, we've got a paid staff, we've got projects that we do where we apply the money we get from donations, we've got donors. Well, there's a lot of people who either are donors and they also want to volunteer their time, or they may not have time. They may not have money, but they want to volunteer their time. Leverage them. Find out among them who has really good Facebook skills, who has great Instagram and Pinterest skills, and put them to work. Say, look, that's not my thing, and we can't pay you, but this is a nonprofit. It's a great cause. You love it. Can you help us out? 4 hours a week type of thing. Pull your current, volunteer base or your current supporters and say, hey, we could really use some help. The nice thing about being a nonprofit as opposed to a for-profit is when you're asking for that help, people are like, hey, are you taking advantage of me? Not at all. It's not for you. It's for your constituents, whoever your nonprofit serves.
Okay, next question we have here, guys. This might be our last question. It seems as though we're talking about a generational issue here. And I'm not a digital native, but I'm supposed to change my communication and leadership style to conform to those who come by social naturally. Is there room for compromise?
Well, there's a ton of room for compromise. Being a blue unicorn does not absolve us of the responsibility to lead. It does not absolve us of the responsibility to make good decisions. Decisions become more collaborative, ideas become bigger, but ultimately we're responsible. It's that whole the buck stops here thing, and so yes, we want to be better listeners, active listeners. Yes, we want to be more vulnerable than perhaps we're used to, but we each still have a leadership style. We each want to be known for what we believe in strongly. We each want to be leaders that are building a certain kind of culture that we thrive in, and we want others to thrive in. The social age doesn't change any of that. It just makes us better communicators. It makes us better innovators. We still need to be leaders. We still have milestones to hit. We still have investors to please in some cases. We have a lot of work to do, and the social age should help us do that work, not take away the responsibility we have to lead. So let's just say it is a generational issue, and maybe you're a boomer and this is your first ever startup and you have this intense sense of responsibility, and you're working with millennials who are digital natives and they want to text more than they want to email. Then yes, meet them halfway. You can't be an active listener without compromising yourself, right? But at the same time, say, look, here's our culture. We're using Slack, we're using Asana, we're using Basecamp. This is our collaboration tool. This is our virtual collaboration tool in some cases. So yes, we're gonna compromise. We're gonna make communication across all channels possible. But here's how the company works. Here's how we collaborate when we're not sitting right next to each other. Here's our culture. Yes, you need to compromise as a leader. So do they a little bit, and they not in an autocratic way, but in a way that takes the communication to a whole nother level and shows you are an active listener.
Okay, fabulous. Ted, Mark, again, thank you very much for participating and being our authors today for our March author series and presenting such great information here. We also thank everyone for attending. This webinar has been recorded and will be available on our website by the end of the week. And also, please wanted to remind you that our next author series is April 15th, when we will welcome Amy Wilkinson, who will present the Creator's Code as the 6 essential skills of extraordinary entrepreneurs. Again, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.